Welcome to mikeybalzz Fishing, guys. We are hanging out in the boat cave out here, and you guys gave me a lot of good feedback on some of the tips videos that we've put up. So I wanted to look at something that I actually don't see many videos on often, and that's just picking out the right worm hook. I'm not talking like crazy, you know, weird hook stuff, like going through some basics and some like just standards with what hook to use with what when it comes to fishing soft plastic worms and soft plastic lures. So that's what we're gonna do. I got a couple hooks I've been using for God knows how many years, and actually JT kind of put me onto another style of hook for fishing some stick baits and stuff, which we're going to talk about. Well, basically we're talking about matching up the correct hook with the bait that you're throwing to make the most out of the bite that you're getting, to make sure you're getting hooked up, make sure you're landing the fish. So let's run through it. If you guys enjoy these tips and technique videos, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let's talk fishing hooks, bro. Got a little cup of coffee to kind of keep me going here. I got my worm hooks. Basically, I run like two basic hooks. I'm gonna start with the one that JT kind of put me on, because I've always been one to throw a wide gap hook, like all the time. And in talking with JT, and also just kind of like talking with a few of my buddies and that, you know, up here, like stick baits and that, up in Alabama, we're throwing a lot of like aces, you know, your 5-inch stick bait and things along those lines. And a lot of times you're throwing it on fluorocarbon, you're throwing it on 12-pound, 15-pound, even 10-pound at some points, and even on spinning rods too, with like 8-pound fluorocarbon leaders to like 15-pound line. So one of the hooks that is an absolute standby for me is this guy. Basically, this is just an offset shank hook. It's not a wide bend. This is just your standard worm hook. Now, a brand that I like that I don't think gets enough credit, and I'll put links to them down in the description box, this is an owner hook. Now, this is a 3/0. I also keep 4/0, and this is basically all like the hooks that I got. This is what I'll use when I'm throwing a stick bait, not around super heavy cover, but maybe sparse grass, around docks. If I'm throwing a finesse worm, if I'm throwing like a small creature bait, it really relates a lot to like how wide the body is. Let me go grab a bait real quick to kind of show you what I'm talking about. You see right here, for instance, this is a BB cricket. It's a pretty skinny bait. Now when we go and we compare this hook, actually I'll just even, oh, that hurt. I'm gonna bleed now. When we go, we rig it up, you can see that the gap of the hook, you know, there's still enough bite in that hook, so when it actually comes through, you're gonna have no problem hooking that bass right there. So like when you're dealing with like skinnier, thinner baits like this, you can run these hooks, these straight offset shank hooks. I always have a 3/0 or a 4/0 in the boat with me, but it's definitely the way to go when you're doing something with a ribbon tail, a stick bait, or something along those lines. So I have a few other hooks mixed in here, but really the only ones that I use are these guys, other than the ones that I just showed you. And what these are, this is something my buddy Sean Blucher put me on way back in the day. I actually used to punch mats with these jokers. You can do a million freaking things. Once again, they're owner hooks. I buy these in the bulk packs of like 25. It's the Wide Gap Plus. That's a good one. So the Wide Gap Plus is your basic offset shank hook. I can't tell you how many giant fish I've caught off of these. I've caught fish punching with these like mats. Now I use a straight shank, but back in the day I would use an offset shank. I've caught a ton of giants throwing stick baits and stuff like this. When does this come out? This is the 4/0 size. I also have a 5/0 size, and I think I got some 6/0s, but this is a 7/0. So that kind of gives you an idea. 7/0, 5/0, 4/0. So it's a pretty stout hook. You know, the 4/0's got a little skinnier kind of diameter to it, but the 7/0 really, I mean, that's a beast of a hook right there. I actually use this to throw big easies and stuff when we're fishing the hayfields and the grass and all that. Come on, honey girl. Welcome to the boat. A little fatter. It's a stout hook, dude. You put 65-pound like braid on the 5/0 or the 7/0 or the 6/0, and dude, you're not gonna open it up. I mean, they'll bend after a while if you're catching some absolute giants, but they're super stout hooks, and that's what I like is their versatility. I can be fishing for like 2 to 3 pound largemouth in open cover, and they work. I can be fishing for, you know, 6 to 7, 6 to 8 pound fish fishing heavy cover, pitching like sometimes I'll put like a giant tube on this or a giant plastic when I'm pitching to pads and stuff, and it's stout and it holds up. But this guy, when do you want to use it? Two things that really signal when I want to use a wide gap style hook. One is the cover. If you got a lot of like heavy like cover, like thicker grass, cane or wood around you, I recommend going with a little wider gap hook. What it does, I think, is it gives a little more bite to the hook. So when you do hook up that fish, if they do get hung in some grass, you have a little more space where stuff does get wedged in the hook. You still got all that space where you hooked up the bass and you're good. Now, one thing is it does take a little more effort to set the hook on the bass, to actually get that hook to penetrate and get it through. So that's one thing where guys oftentimes they'll kind of criticize using it an offset, like an extended kind of offset like this, or a wide gap hook. But I like it heavy cover situations. The other thing is too, when you're dealing with bigger plastics, you know, we did that example with the BB cricket. It's not a super thick kind of bait, but when you're dealing with like thicker creature baits, you know, so like that Gambler bacon rind we have, or a good example would be the O-Beast, the Gambler O-Beast. It's thicker, dude. So you need more of a bite on that hook in order to make that penetration to get it through. So basically, wider hook when you're doing heavier cover, or when you're basically fishing some thicker plastics. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that review. I know it's kind of basic stuff, but you know, for a long time I actually was using that wide gap plus for just about everything, and since I've gotten up here to Alabama, I had some chats with JT and that I've really used that little more slender kind of regular standardized offset shank hook, and I've kind of liked it. It's definitely more finesse, and I think it allows the bait maybe a little bit more action, but I will go to that wide gap plus when we are in some heavy cover or I am using some wider baits. But I hope that can help you. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you guys got any suggestions on hook selection when it comes to fishing worms and soft plastics, definitely drop them down in the comments box. I love your perspectives. We'll probably shoot a little video like this about flipping hooks, which is kind of a much more dimensional kind of field, but stay tuned for that. Hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for supporting the videos and hanging out. We will catch you next time.